Esteemed guests, students, and parents, a very warm welcome to yet another captivating episode of HT Talks, where we discuss issues related to education which interest schools, students, parents, and educators alike. In today's discussion on 1.5-degree matters, time to gear up, we talk about why the 1.5-degree threshold matters for us, our family, and the planet. From extreme weather events to rising sea levels, we'll explore the real life impact of every fraction of a degree. Together, we'll discuss actionable steps and solutions that we can be a part of and make a difference. Hi, my name is Pritika Khanpur and I will host today's session. I have more than 23 years of experience with top media companies, including HT Media Limited, and I also have a keen interest in environmental sustainability and climate issues. Today, we have on board Mr. Manav Subodh. Manav is the curator of 1.5 Degree Matters and founder of UN accredited 1M1B, that is 1 million for 1 billion. Manav is a leading voice in AI and green skills. Recently, Manav established the 1M1B Green Skills Academy leveraging AI announced at the UN headquarters in New York. Welcome, Manav. I now
Thank you.
invite Mr. Darren Farrand, who is the Director, United Nations Information Center for India and Bhutan. Darren is a senior communication professional with more than 32 years of experience in international organizations and journalism, including 21 years with the United Nations. Darren has worked for the UN at its headquarters in New York, Sudan, and South Sudan, and now in India. He has served as the strategic communication advisor, speechwriter, spokesman, and editor. In his latest role, he heads the UN Information Center in New Delhi, engaging audiences across India and Bhutan about the work and goal of United Nations. Welcome, Darren.
Hello.
I now welcome Ms. Shruti Sharma. She is the principal of Delhi International School, Dwarka Sector 23, a postgraduate in chemistry as well as English, an ESL and APTUS qualified educator. In the field of education, she's been here for the past 21 years with a vision to inspire, empower, and guide students to their full potential, both academically and personally. Her aim is to foster a love of learning that extends beyond the classroom and prepares the students for challenges and opportunities for the future. Welcome, Ms. Shruti. So, a warm welcome to all of you. And I start with Manav. Manav, the first question in our discussion today is for you. As the curator of 1.5 Degree Matters, could you tell us something about the recent initiatives that you've undertaken to increase awareness and action around the 1.5-degree target? And how are the youth engaging with these goals, Manav? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Pradika. Hello, Darren. Hello, Shruti, and you know, uh, thank you, HT, for hosting this very important topic, and would like to contribute on this. So, Pratika, if you're okay, would like to start showing 3 slides, but would like to pick up the first one. Now, this is kind of looks like a fun picture, but this was my time in Delhi when the air quality index was really bad. And I'm from Delhi. I stay in Bangalore, but that is a city that is really going down, and I see it for the last 10 years. I was there for Diwali, and they said, no, this time Diwali is the best. But guess what? A few days later, every time we get into this, and we've been seeing that. And we are sort of the reason I'm putting this picture is these are the new gizmos coming in the market. Right? It's a personal air purifier that you can wear with your headphones, and it looks so cool. But that's how we are adapting to climate change. We'll wear these nice gizmos. We'll have these designer glasses coming soon, or designer masks that are coming and entering the market, and those people who can afford it will afford it and take it forward. And that's the way we are dealing with climate. And that is our ordinary citizens' reaction to climate. However, I think many things can be done and much more can be done. And I must say, I've been working in my career has been about 25 years now. And out of that, 15 years has been in sustainability, green skills, AI. And guess what? I didn't even know what is the difference between 1.5 and 2 degrees. When you hear these terms, it looks very alien to you. I said, oh, there's some Paris agreement that says 2 degrees, and COP28 is talking about something which is 1.5 and 2 degrees. But we have not simplified it for people, even who are working in the sustainability space like me. And thanks to the United Nations Department of Global Communication, my friend Darren and Mahir Nasir, who's going to be in India soon, I was not aware what is the big difference. And if I go to the next slide, which I just want to show you, like 1.5 and 2 looks like just small changes, but that could mean a big thing for the world. And this is an article that I read, which is published by the United Nations, and it clearly talks about that we could be hitting multiple trigger points if we cross 1.5. And this could be multiple climate trigger points. There could be wildfire, droughts, and even collapse of the coral reefs in the oceans. So what does that mean, really? Right? People say we've already breached 1.5. Now, 1.5 is the average global surface temperature that you need to measure over a 10-year time frame. And if I tell you, February 2023 to January 2024 was the time where this average global temperature was breached already. But when you're looking at significant impact, you're looking at a 10-year impact, like 10-year average temperature. And the last 10 year has been 1.2 degrees. So we're very close, and the early science says that we're going to breach it. 1 year has we've done that, and every zero point 0.1 degree breach could lead to severe tipping points for the climate. So the reason I'm talking about this is something that even I didn't know. We need to simplify this and give it to young people. Now, young people, India has the demographic dividend. We are talking about an Indian education workforce that is going to be, working across the world. And this workforce today is in schools and colleges. Now, imagine if that could be simplified and told to educators and teachers and young people on what that 1.5 degree could mean. It is not just a fancy term, but it is not just Paris Agreement. It could mean a lot to all of us who are living on this planet and enjoying living on this planet, and mean to a lot to the future generation. And I believe education is a big lever. It's the way to change the world for the positive. And I personally feel that 1.5 degree matters is a new campaign that we are starting, of course, inspired by the United Nations agenda and the Paris Agreement. And we want to bring this to all the schools and colleges in India. And we have wonderful partnership with Central Board of Secondary Education, AICT. And this is a campaign that we want to mobilize young people on this, first increase awareness, and then have measured action taken to fulfill this agenda to limit global warming under 1.5 degree.
Thank you, Manav. It actually also sets me thinking that I also didn't know much about the difference between 1.5 and 2. It's only when when we thought of discussing this topic today did I come to know more. And it's really important. So we knew about all this, but to simplify it and make it clear to the younger generation, where the educators and UN and all these organizations have a big role to play. So I think this is very important because the implications are serious. Since we all, as you said, want to enjoy living on the planet, sustainability becomes a major issue. And our demographic population is such that we have so many, our main, segment of the population is in schools and colleges. So there, we need to work. So now my next question to you, Darren, is that from the UN perspective, Darren, what are the most recent and impactful global developments aimed at supporting the 1.5 degree goal? And how are the international policies adapting to emphasize this urgency? Yes, Darren.
Thank you, Pritika, and thank you for inviting me to join your discussion today. And it's great to see Manav and Shruti as well on the panel. Um, the most recent, I guess, and the most obvious development in relation to what we're discussing today is the big annual conference, the global conference known as COP, which just took place earlier this month in Baku, Azerbaijan, where the world's countries got together, as they do each year, to try and chart forward a roadmap on how to implement those promises and commitments they've made under previous international agreements related to climate change. It can all sound a bit jargony, but that's what it is in simple terms. And it's based around what Manav has been talking about, that 1.5 degree hook and the need to keep temperature rises to that level or below that level. So each year the countries meet. In each year it becomes harder and harder. We see that we face in the world today a lot of geopolitical winds which are pushing back against action on climate change. There's so much populist political pressure not to take action or to minimize action on climate change. So these meetings, they're called a COP, a Conference of Parties, become even more important because we don't want to lose momentum and lose progress that we've made. And so it was really pleasing to see that after marathon negotiations and some bumps along the way, that we were able to reach an agreement, sort of in extra time, as it were, in Baku. And the agreement's not perfect. Global agreements never are. They're inevitably a compromise. But it gives us elements that we can work together with to chart our way forward. It could be better on financing. It could be better on mitigation. And so by financing, that's helping poorer countries have the financing that they need in order to tackle climate change. And in mitigation, that's about getting ahead of climate change, not just adaptation and having the gizmos that Manav talked about, but it's about also getting ahead of things and mitigating the impacts of climate change before and as they happen. So we could see more in those areas, but nevertheless, it was a really good, solid foundation on which to start, and it keeps us going forward. You know, we know that there are always, as I say, going to be pressures against us, but we have to keep working, keep pressing forward to try and make improvements. And we have to recognise too that governments aren't the be all and end all. All of that was happening in Baku, but meanwhile, civil society, the private sector, universities, researchers are all taking actions themselves, making progress, coming up with solutions, small and large, to make a difference in climate change. So that's something that we really welcome at the UN, because the solution is going to come from all of us. It's not going to be just a governmental solution. It's going to require action from every one of us.
So thank you so much, Darren. You told us about the global agreement that after the global agreement, you at least started in that direction. And it's not just the government, because at times there are populist agendas and all, which makes it difficult to move on. But everybody, the universities, organizations, and everybody has to get together to understand this. At the same time, as you said, that the richer nations, they have to help the poorer countries with a lot of aid so that they can get into environment sustainability, and I guess a beginning has been made. So, on this note, I'm going to ask the next question to Ms. Shruti. Ms. Shruti, you're a principal of a school. So, I wanted to know, how are you incorporating climate awareness and the urgency of the 1.5-degree limit into the educational curriculum, so to speak? And what role do you see education playing in empowering the next generation to take this issue seriously? Yes, Ms.
Thank you, Pritika, for the question. Hi, everybody, and I am delighted to share the screen with Darren and Manav today. So, of course, education plays a pivotal role, and I would state that all these topics, especially for us, are burning topics now, wherein it is the need of the hour to ponder upon these topics. How schools and education are helping in this, I would state that we are in DIS 23, we are talking about the integrated educational curriculum, where we have the integration of subjects like science, maths, geography, and for that matter, even art subjects. And in science, you can actually take up a project wherein the students understand what is an ecosystem. In geography maybe, or social science, they can understand the impact of the changes in the climate. Also in art, they can express themselves. So this is the way how education can lift and help in spreading this awareness. Who better knows than the Delhi schools that what is the need of the hour? And I feel education is the only key to build this awareness, because schools, if we start with a very question that why children are sent to school when homeschooling can also be done, I feel schools give you a behavioral change. When the child is a toddler and when they start in the age of 3 years or maybe 4 years to start beginning to coming to the school, they get up early in the morning, they dress themselves well, they develop a habit of being into discipline. Likewise, if we want to see a change in the climatic conditions, we need to build a behavioral change. So the textbooks cannot barely be and merely be the textbooks for imparting knowledge, but they are the source of imparting education. So education, the curriculum that is set is very, very important, and schools actually can do beyond academics. When we talk about holistic development, this is what is the holistic development, that how do you deal with the real life and with the curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Shruti. So, as you said, schools have to, integrate this into the curriculum, and all the subjects, be it science or social science, they can drive these points into them because practically they see how it's happening. And as you said, there is a certain discipline that they have when they join school. There is a certain routine. Similarly, for these issues also, schools are going to play a pivotal role in this regard. So now my question is for Mana. Mana, what challenges do you encounter when you work with youth and local communities to advance sustainability goals in line with the Paris Agreement? And are there specific areas where you see opportunities where we can have a greater impact? Yes, Mana.
So, Pritika, I'll answer the second question first. So,
Okay.
we can have a big impact. Now, if you look at it, what can we do? Let's just take care of our backyards. Now, I was doing some research, and the if you look at how much CO2 emission happens in America, in the US, from the schools, the data says it's about 28 million metric ton of CO2 that is contributed because of electricity and fuel consumption, and about 5.3 million metric ton of CO2 is because of transportation and the buses. Now, that does not mean, there's something, of course, we need to control it, but that data is not available for any other country. So if you look at it, yes, that data talks about something. So unless you can measure it, you cannot change it. First, we need to measure it. So I think as educators and as in the schools and colleges, universities, first we need to see how much is the emission from us as an institution. How much electricity is there a sustainability audit happening in schools and colleges today? And the answer is most probably no, unless I am not well aware, but mostly it's no. So first we need to do sustainability audits in our own schools and colleges and saying, okay, before we walk the talk, let's see what we need to clean up. So that's a big number. If you look at that number, could be reduced significantly, and change starts from home. Of course, we can talk about individual habits as well, but we need to act as institutions, as school, colleges, businesses, and I think that needs to be the focus first. So a big part of 1.5 agenda that my organization is driving, of course, is inspiring schools and colleges to do campus audits and report out. And a lot of that is now getting institutionalized even in the policy, where the national rating of a school or college can get influence on how much you're contributing to the environment. So, like you have the top 10 schools or the top 20 schools and colleges, now their ratings could get affected if you're not doing enough for the environment. So, that's a great policy change, but that policy needs to be landed and we need to do something about it. And that is something that the 1.5 degree matter agenda will be focused on. So, that's a big part of it. So, we need to do sustainability. But the second biggest part, I would say, is the mindset, and the mindset of seniors and parents and educators. So I see a lot of young people. My organization 1M1B runs a sustainability program for the last 8 years with support of the United Nations, We take some top change makers from India at the United Nations, and they get an opportunity to talk right at the United Nations headquarters, New York, what they are contributing to advance the Sustainable Development Goals. And this program, which is going to be in the 8th year, like on the 12th of December, we'll be there again. About 25 students from India would be going, and 4 of them are from the grassroots this time. So this time, in a time where you're not getting US appointments in 3 days, these students, because of the government support, has got appointments and their visas, and they are going with us. And they're going to be, and that's why I love the United Nations, because they're opening up the world to people from the grassroots to come and talk on what can be done and what needs to be done and how it is being done. And these people are from the villages and the grassroots of India, who would be then sharing center stage with the policy makers at the United Nations. Now, where is that opportunity in India? We need to do something like that. We need to make this as a mass movement. 25 students is the maximum that probably we can take, but we need 25 million students to be there and annually talking about it. How can we make this as a mass movement in India? That's what we need to do done. And I think the mindset is the biggest issue. And I'm talking about mindset of parents. So when children and young people work on sustainability, they think that that's going to take them away from their grades, and it's going to take them away from jobs and focus on jobs and careers. So that's a big roadblock that we face. And in fact, one of the roadblock was very recently, when a very senior management professor who was talking to our students just asked them that, why are you talking about such dead topics? And this is a very senior management professor. And when young people want to make a contribution, they think it's too serious a topic for you to solve. Let the next generation do it. And the next generation is not doing anything, or not as much. But here we can mobilize the workforce to act together. But we need to aggregators. Educators need to be aggregators. School principals need to be aggregators. Regulators need to be aggregators. And that's, if we mobilize young people to take action, I think a lot can be done. But we need to first look at how do we resolve the mindset issue and make sustainability a mainstream agenda. Sustainability, by the way, has huge job potential. There are a lot of green jobs that are coming up. So we are just talking about AI, artificial intelligence, but nobody's talking about green jobs. So today it makes sense to look at environmental stewardship and economic development together. And I think it's in the best interest of everybody, including people who are looking at jobs.
So thank you so much, Manav. You talked about audits in the beginning, which is very good, because we must know how much of emissions, the institutions are accountable for, and what they can do in this regard. And I also, the next part also was, I was very actually amazed to know that a senior professor has said that, that why are you getting into all this? Because the young generation actually needs to know that it's their contribution which is going to matter. And so the mindset of the educators needs to change, and they also need to know that there are a lot of jobs as far as green skills are concerned, not only in AI but in sustainability issues as well. And this agenda should now become of prime importance, considering how much global warming is affecting all of us. The mindset needs to be changed, and there you need to get the supporters of educators and the young people. As you already said, that they are the major percentage of our population. It's only when the young people get that support from their environment, from educators, from everybody, will they be able to get the resources together and make a change. So, on this note, my next question is for Darren. Darren, the UN faces numerous challenges in coordinating climate efforts across nations. What do you believe is the biggest challenge currently facing the UN in securing this commitment to the 1.5-degree target? And where do you see UN's greatest opportunity to influence this positive change? Yes, Darren.
Thank you. I think the biggest challenge by far is political willpower. That's what we've seen. It's historically always been the biggest challenge we've faced on this issue. It's the tension between short-termism, what we would call short-termism, governments having to appeal to constituencies who don't want to experience what they see as insurmountable economic or other pain for the long-term goal of a healthier planet. And that kind of short-term mindset, unfortunately, is very widespread. It's in pretty much every country on earth, and it's being spread by a lot of mis and disinformation that's propagated by those who don't want to see action on climate change, the fossil fuel companies, other actors like that as well. Um, so it's really important that we fight back and we push back against that political will, but also against apathy and the idea that there are no solutions, that it's helpless, that the world is just going to end in some kind of heated disaster and that we can't take action. So that's what we've got to come up with now: solutions and fighting against apathy and a lack of political willpower. But our greatest opportunity, therefore, is young people, in making sure young people have a say, have a voice at the table, and are able to influence their lawmakers, their policymakers, their leaders to affect change. We see time and time again the examples of where national governments, where politicians will make smart moves, will make the right changes when they feel the pressure from their populations. And so that's what's got to happen here. In every country in the world, we have to have the population making the case at every level to their leaders, for their governments to make the positive changes. And it's got to start with the young people. And the young people, not just with that political pressure, but also coming up with solutions for those changes.
Yeah. So thank you, Darren. So you talked about the young people considering political pressures and so many things when things don't move. There's no need to be hopeless about it, but rather the young people, they can be lawmakers, they can influence the government, and when they put their case forward, then only the change can happen because there's so many people opposing this, be it fossil fuel companies and so on. There are a lot of people who don't have this on their main agenda, and because of it sometimes the helplessness arises because we think nothing can be done. The global warming is reaching its peak, and climate changes are drastic and so on. But if we mobilize the young people, and if they come forward, they're the ones who can push everybody to make this change. So on this note, I have a question for Ms. Shruti. Ms. Shruti, schools play a pivotal role in shaping mindsets. And what challenges have you encountered in integrating climate action into school policy and teaching practices? And where do you believe schools, particularly in India, can make the maximum impact in this regard?
Thank you for
Yeah,
the
Ms. Shruti.
question. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for the question.
yeah,
Talking about that schools play a pivotal role in shaping the mindsets, of course they do. As I answered in my first of the question, that schools are the place where a child from a toddler becomes an adult, almost an adult, and then enters the sphere of the world. The challenge that we as educators, as school, that we face would be that we have a prescribed curriculum, especially in the senior secondary classes. So that prescribed curriculum is across the category of a school. So if I'm talking about a particular board, so all boards have to follow the same prescribed curriculum. Now, if you talk about NCR and Delhi specifically, the schools were shut in Delhi and NCR, wherein the classes went online. Whereas vis-a-vis the other schools, they were already giving classes offline, and those children are reading and they're preparing themselves for the board examination in a very closed group, thus taking the advantage. No matter what we state, of course, it's a transition from offline to online, but in an online scenario, a child may turn off a camera and sit and maybe watch reels and Instagram, and you can't keep a check for 24 hours on the child. Vis-a-vis a child who's sitting in front of a teacher and taking an offline class, but at the end of the day, at the end of the annual session, we expect the children to take that standardized exam with the same curriculum, but neglecting the challenges that a particular set of students have faced because of such breaks or because of such climatic changes. So this is what I feel is a major challenge. Secondly, as Manav has already stated, changing the mindset. It's a very, very simple example that when the schools weren't shut here, we had a group of parents who wanted the schools to be shut. And now it's very interesting that when the schools are shut, a particular group of parents, they want the schools to be working in an offline mode. So, of course, these are potential challenges, and just not giving advices is enough. I feel that we need to have actionables. How, what, and how a particular set of students, they are not the sufferers of the same. So, talking about the potential, I will just quote an example that we at DIS have recently done, because there are climatic changes. We did a survey on issue with the tissue. I'm just quoting a very, very simple example. So this was done by my students from the primary level, wherein they observed that we are using a lot of tissue paper across classes, across the washrooms. So one of the child, he comes up to me and states that, what if we get rid of these tissues? What is going to happen? So, with the help of the teachers and the senior students mentoring them, we prepared a survey and we floated that survey to the parents. And the results were amazing. They were phenomenal. 98% of the parents community, they stated that yes, we can live our life without the tissue papers. So that initiative taken by my primary students under the mentorship of the senior students, so that is the potential that schools can develop. So sensitizing the children, creating empathy for the nature. We always talk about empathy, humans to humans, but what about a connection that a human has with the environment? Who is supposed to generate it? We, the humans, are supposed to generate, because we are the ones who have converted our jungles into concrete jungles. So there is a lot of potential, project works, art integration. The curriculum is doing a lot for that change, but how are we taking it? How experiential learning can convert into this? Like the example that I've quoted is an example of experiential learning. Your stats is going to come into, your mathematics is going to come into, your awareness is coming into. So all that needs to be done. But again, I would state that, of course, the standardized exams important, but we need to consider what the particular sect of student have undergone through. So that's the major challenge. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Ms. Shruti. You're absolutely right that the change has to happen right at the grassroots level, and the very fact that you mentioned that we need to sensitize children, and one of your kids had come up to you and said, "What if we, do without the tissue?" And that set everything into action. And senior children were mentoring, this entire project and issue with the tissue, and 98% parents said they can do without it. So I think these are small examples, but they're very important. So this sensitizing and other things like project work, art integration can all be done, considering the limitations also, because the curriculum is the same, the conditions for everybody are the same, because those people who are having a shutdown in the classes and the ones who are actually attending physical classes, they should be on a similar level. But when talking of the environment, I think the same issue about mindset, and the change can happen at the school level, because when such projects happen, when you conduct such surveys and other activities are coupled with it, I think you can sensitize them, and then you can develop this empathy, not only for human to human but also for the environment. It's we human beings who have to respect nature, our environment, and the very fact that we've been cutting trees and so on, and the green cover is almost it's diminishing slowly and slowly. So that needs to happen, and we need to have a conscious we need to make a conscious decision and educate the children according to this. It should be a part of the curriculum, we should put it, and right from the beginning, right from the lowest level that they are in, in some way or the other, they should start contributing towards the entire environment. Thank you. So my next question is again for you, Manav. Manav, how does 1M 1B measure the impact of its sustainability programs, especially with regard to meeting this 1.5-degree target? And how do you ensure accountabilities among the participants and the partners? So how does that happen?
So, Ritika, thanks for the question. To be honest, right now we don't know how to measure it.
Right.
And that's the biggest challenge today. Not just at 1M1B, but any organization that wants to contribute. That what are we playing against? What is the scoreboard looking like? What do we measure? And I think first that needs to be done, because those frameworks need to be established. That what are we measuring? And then if you don't know where you are, a map is not going to help you. So, looking at that perspective, first we need to know where we are and what can be done and how much is our contribution. And of course, a lot of campaign work is happening. A lot of educators are taking a lot of out of their EVS economic environment is a big topic. in CBSE schools, value education. They're talking about all this, and they're creating massive campaigns like Shruti ma'am was talking about. But we need to see, what else can we do? How can we make institutions accountable? And what 1M1B is doing, like if I just step back and said, okay, what have we done last 10 years? So we've been working with educators, CBSE and all the schooling education system, and the AI curriculum, for example, that is there in CBSE has been implemented by my team, which is now an elective in the 11th and 12th grade. Now, with that access, and the support of CBSE and CSR organization, CSR funds from IBM, we were able to make a big impact. And the impact is that how can AI be used for common good? So it's not AI for AI's sake. AI not it's just not Python, but let's solve a problem that matters to the world, and can we do something? Now, since we've done that work already for the past so many years, we have trained almost 7 lakh, which is 700,000 students on it, 500,000 teachers on it, 3,000 schools are already part of our network. The question is, how do we leverage this? And I think the 1.5 degree matters is a new campaign and program that we are starting, which is making schools accountable now. First, before we even talk about it, let's make us accountable. And as schools, we are saying, let's start green schools, green campuses, and let's make that. And so my team is right now, as we speak, one of my colleague, Irene Manning, she's working to create a framework on what do we tell the schools to measure, what do we tell them what to audit. So we are looking at frameworks which the Nordic countries are following, which are already there, because there's not too much information out there. This needs to be standardized. And there are schools, especially in Norway, Finland, that have done good work on the climate space, who have gone, net zero. They're net zero schools. Imagine if we could just go with the net zero school phenomena in India and just do something about it. So that's the path that we are taking in the 1.5 degree matter initiative. And the other that we are doing is we are convening businesses and say what can be done together. So we are holding business forums so that the educators and businesses can come together, so that there could be more support, more funding that can come in, because one of the biggest issue in transitioning towards renewables is funding. You need to invest a lot on your solar, on wind farms, or alternate fuels. So CSR funds could be utilized, and we are trying to see if that can be done. And there are many organizations that are coming and supporting, like Salesforce, that are saying, with the help of Salesforce, we are starting a Green Skills Academy in the state of Telangana. So multiple things are happening. And one of the things that my organization just did with AICTE, which has all the non-technical and technical colleges of India regulated, is we started about 1 lakh green internships. So these are like 100,000 green internships that are being followed, and the whoever does this is going to get 2 credits in their engineering degree. Now imagine what a remarkable change that is going to have, right? Because you're getting credits now to a green internship. So everybody wants internship now. Let's do it on green, and if you do it on green, you get 2 credits in your academic. Now 2 credits is not a big amount, but still a significant amount for students to get motivated and solve this barrier of इसमें job कैसे मिलेगा, how do you get a job in this, or how does this help me in my curriculum or my marks, right? So we are playing with the mindset. Of course, we cannot change too many things. We have to live with what we have, but we have to make a start and go in the circle of influence that we can. And that's what we are trying to do. And hopefully this will give results. So we are looking at these interns working on making campuses, which is engineering colleges and school campuses, net zero. And hopefully this will spark a movement, and hope this becomes big.
Thank you, Manav. It is really encouraging to hear about your Green Skills Academy, and the very fact that about 1 lakh internships you had given, and the best part is that you're also giving them credits, as you said that this is at least significant. It may not be too much, but 2 credit points is significant, and that gives them they come to know that they are getting credits for this. So that even encourages them more that they participate in this, and the very fact that these children would help engineering colleges and schools and all these campuses achieve the net zero goal, that I think is very important. So this is very important, as well as what you talked about earlier, that you are telling the schools and institutions on what to measure, and one of your colleagues is working on that, because they exactly need to know what they need to measure. Only then they can they be some kind of an accountability. So thank you, Manav. So on this note, I have the next question for Darren. Darren, are you there? I can't see him. So I think I'll go to Shruti, since Darren is there on audio. Yeah. Darren, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, correct. So I'm going to just give this question to you. Darren, with a goal of as specific as 1.5 degree, how does the UN track the effectiveness of member countries' contributions? And could you share how data and accountability are used to ensure that nations stay on track? Yes, Darren?
Sure. Firstly, apologies. I'm having technical issues with my camera at my end. That's why you can't see
No
me.
worries.
But I'm glad
Yeah.
you can hear me. And this is a really important question, data and accountability. This is extremely important now, but also going forward if we are to make meaningful progress in climate action. Um, in terms of data, the primary funnel or vessel at the UN is what's called UNFCCC, the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, which is the secretariat to the annual meeting, the COP, the Conference of Parties that I spoke about earlier. And they're the ones that take the lead for the UN in tracking countries' contributions, financial contributions, other commitments they make under their what they call their NDCs. These are the national action plans where each country pledges to take action towards the Paris Agreement. So that's our prime vector for measuring success and tracking the data. But many other UN agencies are also involved in their areas of specialty because, as we know, climate action and climate change is very much a cross-cutting issue. But it's also an issue that we are learning about and that's evolving as we go along. And that's why it speaks to the earlier points made by Manav. It's not just something that the UN or governments can be measuring. It's something that private sector, that universities, that individuals can also get involved in tracking and exploring not just the data, but what is the most effective data to be measuring? Where are we making the most impact, or where can we show whether or not we are making the most impact when it comes to climate action? So this is a field, I think, a science that keeps evolving, and we keep getting smarter at working out how we can show whether or not we are actually making whether we're moving the dial, as it were, to actually make a real difference on climate action.
Yeah. So I think, as you said, that as per the COPs that have been happening, there is some accountability, and the nations have to contribute towards, they have to contribute in terms of money towards sustainability. And as Manav has already stated this point, you are right that, the accountability at every level needs to happen. And apart from the UN and the government, which is already taking the adequate measures, the private sectors, and the institutions, individual level, everybody has to get together apart from the UN and the government. So thank you, Darren. Now,
And
my next
just to
question.
just to add that without meaningful, accurate, detailed data, we can't have accountability. So we can't have accountability until we know what we're measuring, until we know who's falling short, who's achieving their targets, who's making the progress. So they go hand in hand. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So to ensure accountability, we must be able to measure. We must know who is taking care, who is being able to work towards the 1.5 target, and who all are missing out on the target totally, whether something is happening or not. So that is very important. Only then can we move in the right direction. So thank you so much, Darren. Now, my next question is for Ms. Shruti. Ms. Shruti, how do you measure the engagement and success of climate related education initiatives in your school? And what strategies do you find most effective in fostering genuine, actionable commitment to sustainability among students? Yes, Ms. Shruti.
Thank you for the question. So we do not measure exactly that how much water has been saved per day by a particular individual in the school, or how much electricity was not wasted by a particular child in the school. But we can measure and we can observe the behavioral changes in individuals. That is what schools do, and that is what we are doing at DIS as well. Also, because when you make something measured in terms of marks, which is so very important when it comes to school life, it becomes more compelling to do a particular thing. But unless and until these changes are from the within, the change will not happen. So we can't impose a particular habit, but we can share the education of the repercussions that might take place with certain climatic changes, or how can we improve from where we are. So that is what we can do. And I feel that the children must be encouraged to do a reflection from where to where we are at. How did we plan to come until here? Why did we convert our jungles to concrete jungles? So all these reflections can actually have a peer discussion. Maybe the juniors can go towards the seniors and ask these burning questions, or maybe the seniors can go towards the juniors and then discuss, have a discussion, have a peer discussion, have these discussions at houses. If I talk about schools, we also give reflection sheets for students at home. If your grandfather is coughing these days more, why so? So it is not only generating empathy, but it is making a behavioral change. It is making the child ponder upon that this is because of the current climate, this is because of the pollution that is prevalent these days in NCR. Small steps of sustainability, why sustainability is important. I know these terms are very prevalent these days in our ecosystem, but why is it important? So we did a very small activity. We called the next nest man of India, Mr. Rakesh Khatri ji, and he came and he delivered a session on how to build nest. So this is not only a very creative activity, but this is an activity wherein then the students came up and they thought about, and they really got deepened into why we need to respect the nature, how the nests are built, what is impacting the depletion of sparrows. So all this can be started wherein we do experiential learning, wherein we do active learning, and wherein we do not impose our thoughts, but we trigger the youth that yes, a change has to be made for the positive, because eventually the youth is going to be the sufferer if the change is not done today. They are going to be impacted with the weather, because now when we were children we used to go offline school, we just had a winter and a summer break. But there is a new break these days, which is a pollution break. And I used to write essays on winter and summer break, but nearing future I think we can also give a topic on pollution break, wherein the children enjoy themselves within their houses with the devices. It looks very very lucrative, but it shouldn't happen to the generations to come. Whatever we have enjoyed in our life, they have the equal right to enjoy it. So I would state that yes, actionable plans are important and action should be taken, but in an interesting manner wherein we are not imposing our thoughts upon them. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So you talked about actionable plans where you encourage the children to reflect. You don't impose anything upon them, but it's something that's, inculcated to them over a period by having different discussions, peer discussions between juniors and seniors and so on, where they discuss the impact of different things. And in the current scenario, what is happening if they have grandparents who are suffering because of the pollution and they have health related issues, why they are having those, and how the green belt is getting depleted. So all that is important. At the same time, you said that the very fact that children sometimes they don't think about it, they should be given something to reflect upon, so that when they reflect upon this, it automatically becomes a part of their system. And as far as measurement is concerned, you haven't exactly measured it, but over a period you should look at something once you get a framework for measurement, that what is the exact difference that you've been able to make. Okay, on this note, I have a question for Manav. Considering your grassroots experience, what practical steps do you recommend to individuals and communities? What steps can they take to contribute to this 1.5-degree goal? And what might be the most pressing impact on communities if such actions are not taken? Yeah.
See, I spoke about the impact that we are already having. We see it is already hitting our backyards. Delhi is like we're talking about it. And when I was in Delhi, people say, "Oh, why are you wearing a mask? It's now 400. It was 800, and now it's so much better. And every the sun is out." And so we've got used to it. We've adapted it, and we think, there's a person coming from Bangalore who's overreacting and spoiling the Delhi image. It's nobody's image. It's we need to take care of it as humans first. So I think we need to come out of it that my area, my city, let's do something. So that is important, and I think what we need to do, Pritika, is just stop participating with organizations and institutions who are not part of the 1.5 watts, the sustainability initiative. Like, stop buying those clothes, stop interacting with those brands which are not contributing to this agenda. Textile is a big example. We can still make brands and big companies accountable by hitting where it matters, like business. And we have seen cases where large organizations have been forced to take on sustainability and environmental because now people don't want to join them. And I know a big consulting firm that started it because many people, young people, don't want to join because they are not creating enough for the environment. I know people who don't want to join schools and colleges because they're not ethical or something is happening. So I think accountability is important. Buying is, the consumer has that power. Buying or not buying is in our hands. Stop, look at, if you're making a purchase decision, look at what are they doing with e-waste. If you're buying an electronic item, look at what are you doing with what are they doing with upcycling clothes, or is there recycling initiatives happening? Stop fast fashion. These are some things that we can do. um, we order supplies at home today because it's become convenient, and that has increased so much because now, because of the lockdown, everybody wants to buy stuff from all these nice organizations that are making it so easy for you. But look at the packaging involved with that. So we can stop that. We can say, no, I don't want to do that and buy all my stuff. So I think small changes can be made. But I think first thing is, let's understand the impact. Like I was sharing in the beginning, 1.5 and 2 degrees. First, get to know where we are, why this matters. And I think that's the start, because that will propel you into action yourself. There's nobody who can force you. It has to come from within. It cannot be dictated. It can be, self-driven. And I think if we have initial sparks, initial leaders who can take it, then it will become a spiral movement. But we are not having those initial leaders come forward. And I think that's what we need right now.
Yeah, thank you, Mana. So, as you rightly said, we need someone initially to lead this entire thing so that it sparks the change. And, we should try to do whatever we can as individuals to make a change in terms of not associating with those organizations which are not taking care of sustainability issues. And I think it was a very good example, whether we talk of clothes or electronics. We should not associate with those organizations which are not taking care of these factors, because once we are not buying and their business is being hit, they know why it is important that these things are, they have to take care of the environment. So
Yeah,
that I
and
think,
I would
yeah,
just say, because there's a lot of teachers and students who would be watching this, just write an
yeah,
email. What are you doing for your sustainability initiative? I want to
yeah.
ask this question before I buy it. Just asking that question is a first step.
Yes, absolutely. I think this is a great insight that they can ask this question. They can also look at how they're getting their stuff, what packaging material is being used. So are they still using plastic or other things? So depending upon that, those companies which are going into more eco-friendly measures, I think they are making the first step. And we ourselves, as responsible people, as you said, nobody can force it on us. It should have, be driven from within. It should be a part of our everyday life. And as we go about our daily activities, I think the best thing would be to slowly distance ourselves from such companies. And they also then know that if they will not conform to the standards, they are not going to make any sales, and so they are not going to be able to exist. So I think such kind of measures are very important, and we can write an email or find out from these companies what are they doing for e-waste if it's an electronics company. And if we feel that these things are not being taken care of, the best would be that we do not promote such companies. That would be our contribution in whatever way we can. Okay, my next question is for Darren. I hope you're there on audio. So, Darren, on a broader scale, what policies and actions do you believe are the most critical for countries to adopt immediately to stay within the 1.5-degree limit? And if these actions are delayed, what potential devastations, might the world face? Yeah, Darren.
Thank you. And mindful of the idea that we've been discussing today, which is that we don't just rely on governments to save us, we also have to take actions as individuals, as organisations, as communities. But when it comes to the large scale change, obviously this is where governments come in. And there are two big areas I see as being critical here. One is accelerating the phase out of fossil fuels. And I think that's kind of obvious. We've heard discussions now for many years about the importance of that. The phasing out of fossil fuels is inevitable. It will happen. The quicker it can happen, the better it is for the health of our planet. I know that there are economic costs involved to communities, but it's really important that we don't delay in any way in accelerating that phase out. And then the second important area is in financing, the sort of unsexy area of climate financing, and in which richer countries help poorer countries pay for the costs of mitigating and adapting to climate change. I spoke of the agreement in Baku earlier this month that included a big deal on climate financing. And while the numbers were huge, they were actually not huge enough. We need to see more. We need to see lots more money because the cost of climate action is enormous and the stakes are enormous. So these are the two big areas that we need change. And of course, I think everyone is increasingly already seeing what the devastations are and will be if we don't take action. We see the smog that we've been talking about today, but we also think of the heat waves that have gripped India this year. We think of the floods that just ravished Spain. We can name 100 other wildfires or natural disasters that have been strengthened or exacerbated or made worse or more impactful because of climate change. And they'll become the norm. We're increasingly seeing that they're becoming the norm. More and more cyclones, more and more hurricanes, more and more damaging ways to our planet, less land available for agriculture, uh, rising sea levels swamping islands and even towns and whole cities, mass migration of people, starvation in areas that used to be able to sustain themselves. So there's enormous worrying signs of what lies ahead if we don't take immediate action.
Yeah. Thank you, Darren. You talked about phasing out fossil fuels. That has to be done. At the same time, you talked about the finance that is required, because when we make climate change, there is a lot of money that is involved when they shift to other renewable sources of energy, solar power, and so on. So that financing is important. And you also talked about the devastation in terms of extreme climates, hurricanes, floods, and so many, fires and rising sea levels and so on. So the effects are alarming. And considering such devastations, I think, we must try to slowly phase out the fossil fuels and get our monies together. So get, people to finance them. Those countries which have money and organizations, businesses, they can contribute, because money is also required for this climatic change to shift to better resources of energy, better sources of energy. So now, my last question, so to speak, is for Ms. Shruti. Ms. Shruti, on an educational level, what immediate actions can school and educational institutions take to support the climate action? And if students are not made aware of and involved in these efforts now, what consequences, can they face in future? So if it's not done now, yes, Ms. Shruti.
Yeah, thank you for the question again. So, the immediate actions that schools and even the parent body, everybody can take is to communicate about the repercussions of the same. We need to understand that how these climatic changes are hampering the future generations. Why did we come to a stage wherein the students are devoid of physical classes? What made it so? So the immediate action could be that we have these discussions with within the classrooms, among the peers, among the students, among the student and parent, among the teachers. We can conduct surveys, we can conduct and records of the same. We can talk loud about this, and then we can again spark, as Manav already stated, we can spark these conversations which will help us find out a solution. So, as I already stated, there are certain projects that the students can do which shouldn't be only academically sound, but it should be a project wherein we are integrating the expression of a child as well. So, how and why the child is supposed to wear a mask now? What is making the lifestyle getting changed with gizmos, with all these devices? We have been seeing the nature through devices. Are we going to be glued to the devices wherein the nature has been devastated with floods, has been devastated with earthquakes, with the natural calamities, and then we just see the scenic beauty through the devices? We need to think, we need to ponder upon how much is just too much, why the sparrows are getting depleted, why are they getting on the extinction verge. So we need to sit, we need to understand our carbon footprints as well. So all these small things are basically to support the future generation, and if we do not do that, then of course they are the ones who are going to be the sufferers, because they will see a life which we don't want to foresee, because it is going to hamper their everyday doings. So of course the offices have started to work from home, so it is no more a life wherein the people used to go to the offices, have a group discussion or have a lunchtime together, but now it's majorly the work from home. Why? Because of the climatic change. So this is a repercussion. This is what we are landing up to. We are going to glue ourselves within the houses. So if the future generation is not taught about that this is going to impact them drastically in the future, we are not saving the future. And I feel educators, I feel schools, they do have a magic wand in the hand wherein they can make the change what we want. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shruti. So today, I think we had a very healthy discussion on 1.5-degree matters, time to gear up. So this is something which is alarming, but at the same time, there is also a lot of hope because we've seen that as educational institutes, as private institutions, as organizations like 1M, 1B, and the UN, everybody, all of us can get together and make the change. So it's the first step is, I think, educating everybody regarding this, knowing where we are, then ensuring that these it's measurable. What is the sustainability? How do we measure it? At what level we are, and what is the level that we are targeting? And then adequate support from all the quarters to get this mobilized. That I think needs to be reiterated. And this is something that whether we conduct surveys or discussion, I think we need to drive this point more and more. Another important aspect is that as we've given credits to children because they realize that when they are working towards sustainability, they get credits, educating them on the job opportunities that are there, everything is going to make a difference, and sensitizing them. And it's something that they need to work on. Projects is something that they see on an everyday basis, and they themselves have been suffering this impact. So I guess it's time to gear up, and I think we had a discussion today, and we really hope that these steps are implemented and we can get towards the net zero goals. Thanks a lot everybody for this discussion and for all your valuable contributions, and thank you so much on this note. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah, bye. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.